This is John Michael Grogan with Advancing Your World. Today I want to share with you about living life to the max.
Dr. John Michael Grogan is a worldwide best-selling author and speaker. In this podcast, Advancing Your World, Dr. John Michael will help you position yourself for success by achieving greater purpose, significance, and exceptionalism. Now, here's Dr. John Michael Grogan.
The normal length of our days is 77 years for men and 81 years for women. We could say this life of ours is divided into 4 seasons, each season lasting 19 years. The springtime of our life begins at birth and goes until age 19. The good old summertime would see us grow from 19 to 38 years. The fall season would take us to 57. And the winter season from 57 to 77 or 81, depending on gender. But I would argue that there's another effective way to look at life in terms of stages: childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. Infancy says, help me. Childhood says, teach me. Adolescence says, show me. And adulthood says, follow me. At least, this is the way the model's supposed to work. But we've all seen that adult maturity has little to do with age. A 65-year-old who is part of the problem is not mature. A 16-year-old who goes to school and has a part-time job to help his single mother is part of the solution and very much mature. So then, the thing we have to ask in the private courtroom of our own mind is, are we part of the problem or are we part of the solution? Do I need a nurse to help me through the challenges of life? Or as a woman friend of mine likes to say, have you put on your big boy pants yet? This prompts another question. What type of things determine what stage we're in, regardless of our age? It's a sad thing to see a 65-year-old man in diapers, psychologically speaking. Well, where are we? Child, adolescent, or adult? Not to get too clinical, let's look at some characteristics from Denver clinical psychologist Susan Heitler, who deals with conflict resolution, and what Psychology Today have to say about the child, adolescent, adults. For one thing, they blame others. When things go wrong, mature adults look for solutions. When there is an uncomfortable situation, the child, adolescent, adult might lie in order to avoid trouble or justifiable correction. Mature adults deal with reality and speak the truth. They tend not to have fear of man. Name-calling is another immature trait of the child, adolescent, adult. Adults seek to understand issues. They do not make ad hominem attacks, that is to say, they do not attack another's personal traits. Adults attack problems. Adults are, for the most part, not impulsive. They listen and do not interrupt. They intellectually interpret rather than emotionally react. Sometimes, as in the case of police and soldiers, interpretation has to be done almost instantly. Child, adolescent, adults are narcissistic and emotionally brittle. They tend to see the world as revolving around themselves. They will say things like, I didn't say that, or I never did that, when in fact they did. Failure to get their own way, the emotionally immature narcissist will resort to bullying or pouting. This also, incidentally, describes most dictators. The child, adolescent, adult has not learned mature guidelines of respectful behavior toward others, Heitler says. They have not learned balance in their behavior, what's in bounds and what's out of bounds. They're angry and see their anger as normal. There's a strong admonition in the Bible guiding us away from such people in order to avoid becoming like them. We will adapt to anyone or group if we associate with them long enough. Any person or group will eventually influence us, or we will influence them. We may simply have to exit. Associate with some people long enough, and we won't be able to find the exits. Narcissistic people regard their angry outburst as justifiable, blaming the other person, saying, "I only did it because of you. You made me do it." This is, again, a clear example of the big I. It's doubtful these people will ever be happy. We have an epidemic in our society of big I people. More and more people see themselves as having a right or being a victim. We have come to accept hitting back. This kind of mindset is not a tree of life, but a tree that multiplies its poison fruit. The key is how we see ourselves. You cannot intimately love someone you do not know. This is why many people do not love themselves. Failing to know who we are is like a person observing their face in a mirror, then turning away and forgetting what they look like, or worse, looking at the mirror instead of their image. The same can be said for failing to know God. Søren Kierkegaard, Danish philosopher, theologian, and author, explains that getting to know God is being fundamentally practical. To make his point, Kierkegaard employs the analogy about a lover who has received a letter from his beloved, but cannot understand it, for it's written in a foreign language. The lover employs the best dictionaries and books of grammar to translate it, the scholar's task, but does not lovingly pore over the letter to absorb its message, the reader's position. Focus on what you can understand, Kierkegaard goes on to say. When you are reading God's Word, the Bible, it is not the obscure passages that bind you, but what you understand, what captures your heart. It's what we understand that compels us to act. If we only understand one single passage in the whole of God's Word, we must act. If we fail to act, we're no better off than the man looking in the mirror. We may just as well have read the funny papers. The question is, when will we decide to grow to enjoy our awesome potential? When will we decide to live life to the max?
Non legitimus carborundum. Until next time, this is John Michael Grogan saying, be strong, be bold, be courageous.
Sign up for exclusive access to Dr. Grogan's newsletter, and as an added bonus, you'll receive access to the growth chart that Dr. Grogan talks about in the podcast Majoring in the Majors. Visit johnmgrogan.com and sign up today. That's johnmgrogan.com. And don't forget, subscribe to Advancing Your World on your favorite podcast app.